everybody, and welcome back. If you've already been with us this morning for David and you are starting the day with a treat. This is the final day of Booktastic, and it's been an incredible weekend so far. We've already had events from MG Leonard, Laura Ellen Anderson, Katie and Kevin Sang, Steve Cole, Axel Scheffler, Vashti Hardy, Patrice Lawrence, and this morning we had David Litchfield and Alex Latimer all the way from South Africa. So we are delighted to welcome so many of you here today, and that's the beauty of doing this online. It's a shame when we don't have you here in person. We never realised when we did our first online event last year that we would still be doing online events 12 months down the line, but here we are. And actually, the good thing is that it means that we can welcome so many of you to this event, not just local Bedfordians, but people from all over the country and indeed all over the world. Next year, fingers crossed, we're going to be meeting in person again, but we're planning on doing a hybrid event so that as well as being live in a theatre, we'll be live streaming it. So it means that none of you who live too far away are going to have to miss it. You'll all be able to take part again next year. Now, our next author is somebody who I've been dying to work with for a long time, and I get a little bit fangirly when I talk to her. Zanib Mian is the author of the incredible Planet Omar series, and if you haven't already read the first 3 books, you must. They are funny, but they cover some really important subjects right from the get-go. They combine silly with serious, which is a really hard thing to do, but Zanib makes it seem effortless. And that's something that clearly you all agree with, because we've had an incredible response to this event, and I know you're all going to have some amazing questions. And talking of which, you will see a live Q&A button, which I would like you to use to ask questions for Zanib at the end of the session, but she is going to be asking you questions throughout the session as well, and she would love to read your answers live as we go. So this is a little bit complicated. While we're doing that bit, the bit during the session, instead of using the live Q&A, if you could use the chat function to write your answers, and I'm going to keep an eye on that, and Zainab's going to keep an eye on that, and we'll get those answers to her live as we go. And then for the questions at the end of the session, if you use the live Q&A, that would be amazing. Hope I haven't made that too complicated. Very sorry, I probably have. Anyway, I'm going to shut up talking now because this isn't about me. This is about the wonderful Zanib Mian.
Hi, everyone. Wow, thank you, Rachel. That was such a kind introduction. I was just blushing there. Thanks so much. It's so lovely to be here as part of Booktastic Bedford. I've got the lovely Booktastic Bedford bunting here. Not to mention the crazy Planet Omar background. So without a shadow of a doubt, I am Zanib Mian, and I'm the author of Planet Omar, because I don't think anybody else, even my top fan, would do this to their office if they weren't the author. Well, I'm going to be talking to you today about my new book in the Planet Omar series, Epic Hero Flop. I'm so happy that this is the first time I'm actually holding this and showing it to people, and I'm very excited about that. It's publishing next week, but I think lots of people have already got this because bookshops sometimes do put them out earlier. So I'll be talking to you about my new book and just about being an author in general, about the Planet Omar series. And most importantly, I will be speaking to you a little bit about how to be comfy in your own skin, just how to be yourself in life, and then obviously within your writing, which you're going to be doing lots of fantastic bits of writing, hopefully after all these great events that Booktastic Bedford has put together for you. So, as Rachel mentioned, I'm going to make this event as interactive as possible because you know, it's lovely that you can join me from wherever you are, but also it's a shame that we can't be together in person and I can see your hands going up and things. So the way that we're going to do it is I'm going to ask you questions and you can just pop them in that chat, and I will see them and be able to interact with you in that way. So I hope that's okay. First thing I want you to pop in the chat is, where are you joining us from today? You know, are we all in the UK? Are you joining us from a different country? Which city in the UK? Let me know where you're joining us from. I'm joining you. I felt like a minion there. I'm joining you from my office. Speak slowly, Zainab, then it will come out correct. I'm joining you from my office in Wembley, which is in Greater London, which is in the UK. And as Omar would probably go on to say, which is in England, which is on planet Earth, which is, but anyway, so that's where I'm joining you from today. And it's lovely to have people from Saudi Arabia, Leicester. Welcome, everybody. If you've just joined us, welcome and hello. And I'm going to go straight into telling you about the Planet Omar series. So I hope you've already read at least one of the books in the Planet Omar series, but if you haven't, I'll tell you a little bit about them. This is a series of books with a main character called Omar, and they are highly illustrated with lots of great doodles by Nasaya Mafaridik, and a brand new illustrator for this one called Kian Cheng. And they are, Omar has a huge imagination, and he's just a funny, kind boy with lots of wit, and without knowing it, he's just very, very charming and clever, and he gets himself out of lots of awkward situations by being that way and by using his huge imagination. He's based quite heavily on my son, who was 9 years old at the time when I started writing this series. And the reason that I based Omar on my son is not only because he's my son and I love him to bits and I think he's the most awesome kid in the world, like every mother thinks of their son, but also because I wanted there to be people like Omar in books that are just fun books, and a family like Omar's, which is a British Pakistani Muslim family. I felt that there weren't enough books out there who had people like that as the main character, as the hero in the book. And I thought, why not? People need to see themselves in the book. So kids that are from a similar background will love this because they'll read the story. It's, they're all adventurous stories, lots of fun and giggles. And as Rachel said, but also dealing with some serious stuff like bullying or teachers going missing or money they raised for the mosque going missing in the second one. And in this one, being blamed for something big that you didn't do and having to prove your innocence. So serious stuff mixed in with lighthearted, funny, humorous stuff. I forgot what I was saying. This is what I do. But point is, yes, I thought people need to see a character like Omar who is from their background and feel like, wow, this is a fun story, and the hero in the story is from a background similar to mine or the same as mine, and that is just a really, really lovely, touching feeling because it makes you feel. And if you've read it and you are from the same background as Omar's or a similar background, it just makes you feel that, wow, I picked up this book in my school or in the supermarket or in, a high street bookshop. So that means people see me, they recognize me, they know about me, they understand a little bit about my culture and why I do things the way that I do. And also, they get to see that I'm pretty similar to them, even if they are from a different culture. And that's why I love that this book isn't only for the people of the same culture, but equally people of different cultures can look at books like these and learn from them and, have a little window into the lives of other people and other cultures and see the way we do things and maybe even answer questions that they were too afraid to ask. Like I make lots of jokes, particularly in the first book in Planet Omar 1 called Accidental Trouble Magnet, which is the orange one, about the hijab and the fact that, and you'll know this if you live with women who wear hijab, we don't wear it inside the house, but when the doorbell goes, we will run around the whole house looking for our hijab so that we can stick it on quickly before we open the door. And then there's obviously jokes about people thinking we must have it on all the time, even when we're in our houses, even when we're having a shower. So yeah, maybe it answers questions for people that they were too shy to ask or felt it might be a bit too rude to ask. But boy, does your mum wear that hijab like literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? So yeah, for those reasons, I have really, really loved writing the Planet Omar series. There's 4 books in the series. I can show you some of them. I don't have the third one here for some reason, but that's the first one. It's called Accidental Trouble Magnet, Planet Omar Accidental Trouble Magnet, Planet Omar Unexpected Super Spy. Oh, here's the third one. Planet Omar, Incredible Rescue Mission. And the fourth one, which is releasing next week, is Epic Hero Flop. So as you can see, they're all really, really brightly illustrated and just lots and lots of fun. So one of the things that really, really helps me develop my story is having great characters. Hands up. Not hands up, actually. I'm so used to saying hands up. By the way, guys, before I became an author, I used to be a teacher, and I used to teach science in a high school. So that's why I've still got that, like, hands up. And I have 2 sons, and I used to teach in an all-girls school for about 4 years. So I'm so used to saying, well done, girls. And I haven't done it for a while now because it's been a long time since I left teaching. But I would often just say to my boys, well done, girls, or like, stop that, girls, because I'm so used to saying that. So hands up is one of the things I'm used to saying. I can't see your hands, but I can see if you send me messages. So type in something that you find difficult about making up characters when you're asked to make up characters at school, or if you're just doing it at home for a bit of fun. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I make my characters. And then I'll speak a little bit more about the representation that I was talking about seeing all sorts of people in books and how that can help you to be yourself, and how that helped me be more comfortable in my own skin, even from when I started writing the Planet Omar series to now. So my characters, I already told you that this kid, Omar, is based heavily on my own sons. He has a huge imagination, and he hates marshmallows and loves midnight feasts. He loves video games. He loves, like, trying to pester his parents into saying yes to something. He's funny and witty, and he's very, very, very kind. He's got this huge, kind heart, which always kind of helps save the day, being like that. And other than basing Omar on my own son, whenever I'm writing characters, I think about all the people I know in my real life. So my friends, my family, even people I've just met for a short while in the supermarket, when I go into schools to do events, even people like you who I've met for seconds, but something about you might have stuck in my mind. Natasha Khan is saying, you don't know what the character should be like. So excellent, Natasha. That's what I'm going to tell you, how I use the people in my real life to help me decide what the characters should be like. So I think about the people in my real life, and I put bits of them, not all of them, but I put bits of them into my characters too. So if I'm thinking of a character who I want to be very, very, let's say, not a nice person, grumpy and rude, I might think of someone, hopefully we don't know people like this in our lives, but it's real life, so we do. I might think of somebody who is like that in real life, and I'll write down, I'll brainstorm about, okay, what do they walk like? What do they talk like? What do they behave like? What usually makes them more grumpy? What makes them less grumpy? And just kind of getting an idea. And that's really great, because you might not, if you had never met a grumpy person, you wouldn't even know what grumpy looks like, right? So it makes sense to think about somebody in real life, so it can help you to understand what a character should be like. Same thing the other way around. If you are trying to write somebody who's very, very kind, or very, very funny, or very, very goofy, think of someone that you know like that. You know so many people, so you'll definitely know someone, and take bits from them and put them into your character. Even when you're thinking about, so once you've written like the basic character, this is what a character's like, you need to make layers of that character. Just like all of us, we have layers of our personality. So we have what we're kind of like basically like, and then we have our things that we love, things that we hate, things that make us laugh and cry. Those are the layers. And even for your layers, you can just take bits and bobs from people you know. So that's what I did for my characters. For Omar's mum, she's a scientist, and that I kind of took from myself, because as I told you, I used to teach science, and that's because at university I studied molecular cell biology. So I am a scientist and I love science. I'm very, very geeky about science. And that's why in my books, Omar and his family do Science Sundays. So I took bits of myself for Omar's mum. If you read the books, you'll get to know her a lot more, what she's like. She can be quite soft, and she can be more of a pushover than the dad in terms of, I say pushover, but that's not a nice word. I mean, when Omar uses his pester power, the mum will eventually say yes, and that's exactly what I'm like. Also, that she has a lot of coffee, that's from me too. For Omar's dad, he is also a scientist and he rides a motorbike. I took both of those things from my brother, and I thought it would be really nice to make both of the parents scientists, because as I said, I love science, and as much science as I can get in the books, the better. So I did that for the dad. I took bits of my brother's personality. Just going to pause there to say Nazli Hussain has said, I find getting a good description and background that will make people feel interested hard. So a good description of the characters. This is what I'm talking about. If you know your character because you've based them on, you've given them layers, and perhaps you've taken those layers from lots of different people you know in your life, that will give you a good description. And one other thing I do when I'm writing my characters, in the second book, there was a new character called Lancelot Mackintosh. You'll remember him if you've read that one. And I know Lancelot Mackintosh so well that there's bits of him in the book there's parts of his personality that are not even mentioned in the book, but I know them. I know him as if he was my own uncle or something, because I spend a long time just like imagining the character. I talk about the characters with my poor friends and family, because I will not shut up. They have to listen to me for ages, clapping my own knee, laughing at my own jokes about how Lancelot Mackintosh might walk, or the things he might say, or, he's so funny, he does this. I just get to know my characters really well just by talking about them lots and lots, and just by imagining them all the time. So yeah, I know his whole wardrobe, I know how he thinks, how he behaves, and I know that for all of my characters. It's really funny. Isa, Omar's little brother, I based him on literally all the 3-year-old sort of kids that I know. Very, very mucky and messy. And Omar says here that he has bits of food in his hair all the time, because when he eats, he sticks it everywhere other than his mouth. And Omar's big sister, I know from having my own sisters and brothers and seeing everybody else that sisters and brothers can sometimes be quite grumpy and annoying and bossy. So I put that all in Omar's sister's character, but also that her and Omar have this really nice relationship where they have each other's back and they secretly just love each other and they'll do anything for each other. Isn't that just how brothers and sisters are? So characters can help you build a great story, because if you have really fantastic characters, it just helps the story come together, and you have characters that are all different to each other, like Charlie and Daniel, which I haven't even talked about, but are Omar's best friends. They're just different to Omar, but they complement each other. Like Charlie is a bit more sort of shy and soft, and whereas Daniel and Omar are a little bit more confident, and Daniel will do and say a bit, he can be a bit brash, whereas the other two have to kind of rein him in a bit, but then that adds to the fun. So writing characters like Omar, as I mentioned before, really helped me become comfortable in my own skin and in my own writing. So when I was younger, probably the same age as many of you who are watching right now, I didn't think that I should write stories about people like myself, with people from backgrounds like myself. I would never have imagined that people want to read a story about a little Muslim girl or a little Muslim boy, Pakistani people. I would never have thought that people want to read these stories when I was younger. And when I was younger, I didn't see, things are very different now. There's lots of really, really great authors from diverse backgrounds, and publishers are really, really trying hard to get us all sorts of diverse books. But when I was young, I thought I didn't see people like myself in books, and I just remember being very, very young. And it's funny that I remember this so clearly because I was very young, maybe about 6, 7, and we had to make little books about ourselves. And I wasn't coloring myself in the skin tone that I am, like brown. And I remember every time I used to draw pictures, I would leave the people not colored in because the paper's white. And I would think, that's fine, that's what people are like in books. So I would never, like, in pictures, I would never color them in. And I just remember showing it to my teacher and her saying, no, you haven't colored yourself in. And I was very, very confused. But now that I'm an adult and I think back to that memory that I have, it makes sense to me. And there's a reason why my brain held on to that memory, because even at that time, my brain was recognizing the fact that I wasn't seeing all kinds of people in books. And only now as an adult, I'm making sense of that and thinking, oh, I was supposed to color myself in brown because that's what I am. And yeah, and yes, people do want to see people like me in books, and they do want to read about me and learn about me, and they do find it interesting. And to be honest, I've only actually become very comfortable with that more recently, in recent years. So when I started writing the Planet Omar series and I wrote the first book in the series, yes, I wanted there to be a character like Omar, but I wasn't sure how well it was going to be received. Are people actually going to want to read this? Are they going to find it funny? Are they going to find it too much when I talk about that Omar does prayers? Shall I put this bit in or not? Like, I was so confused about it, but I knew that I wanted to do it because I felt that people, especially with Muslims and lots of stuff that goes on in the media and lots of atrocities that have happened, I felt that people didn't really understand us properly, like the average Muslim family next door. So I felt that I needed to do it because I wanted everyone to meet, perhaps if they hadn't met or if they had questions, to meet the average family like mine and like all the families that I know and hang out with that are Muslim as well. I wanted people to meet a family like that. So I knew I wanted to do it, but I still wasn't sure. I still didn't know if it's going to be loved by the people who are reading it, or if they're going to enjoy it. Are they going to laugh, you know? So I was doing all this. I mentioned that I was a science teacher, and I gave up being a science teacher just so that I can write books like this and go back to my writing, which I loved as a little girl. So I can write books like this and give all people from all sorts of backgrounds characters like themselves in books. So it just, yeah, I mean, when I wrote that series, when I wrote that first book, in the series, it won an award. And when it won that award, it's a British Literary Award for children's books. It was very unexpected. I will love these people forever. It's called the Little Rebels Award, and I won that in 2018 for that book. And I just remember standing there thinking, wow, it made me realize that, yes, people want to hear these stories. And all the judges, you know, out of all the books that were shortlisted, they loved the book and they found the story interesting, even though it was about somebody different to them. And that's not even though, but because it was about somebody different to them. And they felt that it was such an enjoyable story and they learned something about a different culture. And I felt just the way that I'm trying to make all of you feel when I write my stories. I felt understood. I felt accepted. And to be honest, I hadn't always felt like that. So it was a journey for me to go through that and get more comfortable in my own skin. So now when I think about it, I realized that I asked myself before this event, they want me to talk about being comfortable in your own skin or being yourself. And I thought, what does being yourself mean? Why don't you type in what you think it means to you? Type into the chat. What does being yourself mean? And I thought about that a lot. What does it mean to be yourself? And to me, I think the simplest way that I can put it is being yourself means not having to hide bits of yourself. And to be honest, I did used to go through life a little bit hiding bits of myself because I wasn't always comfortable in my own skin. But I would like to think that I am now. But yeah, I think being yourself means not having to hide bits of yourself. Kishore is saying being yourself means that you have your own mind and imagination. Absolutely. Hannah says not being afraid of what other people think. Exactly, and I'm going to go into that in a minute as well. But I just wanted you to just take that in for a little bit. Not having to hide bits of yourself. So type in what bits of yourself in the past you might have hidden. Me, I'll be honest. Sometimes when I've gone to a conference or a meeting and maybe I'm the only Muslim person in the room and I'm thinking, gosh, I need to do my prayer, but I'm really, really shy to ask if I can have a little space to pray in or something, you know, and then that's me feeling like I need to hide that bit of myself that I need to pray. Whereas normally if I was at home, I would be praying. So yeah, just feeling that nervousness about sharing bits of yourself. And I love the things that you're coming up with. Karen is saying it means you can be whoever you want to be and not being afraid. Absolutely. Viv says it means expressing yourself to the world. My sadness. Oh. So yeah, I thought a little bit about why we hide bits of ourselves. So you tell me, if you ever felt like you're not being your complete self, so that means you're hiding bits of yourself. It might even be that everybody loves a film and you don't love it. For example, let's say Frozen. Can you imagine if you were like the only person in the class saying, I don't like Frozen, or, you know, and you're not being yourself, because this is a very simple example, but you're hiding that bit of yourself because what you're trying to do is you're trying to be the same as everyone else. And what I've learned through writing the Planet Omar series, and thanks to Omar, who is actually just a fictional character that I've made up myself but has helped me, is that Omar doesn't hide bits of himself. He is who he is, and he's not apologetic about that. He doesn't hide bits of himself. So it's like if you're the only person in the class who doesn't like Frozen, being yourself is being able to say, you know what, I don't like Frozen. And so what? Why do we hide those bits of ourselves? Why might you have hidden bits of yourself in the past? I think a few reasons that I will go over is we think people won't understand. We hide bits because we think people won't understand, okay? Number two, we think people won't like us, yeah? If we show those bits of ourselves. And that's obviously a scary concept. It's a scary thing if people don't like us. So we hide it because we think people won't like us. Oh, they all love Frozen. So if I say I don't like Frozen, they're not going to like me anymore. Three, and I'll come back to each of these. Three, people will feel awkward around me. So maybe when I'm in that room and I need to pray and I feel like if I say I need to pray, it's going to make other people feel awkward. But you know what? People are awkward anyway. Like one of the most awkward moments I have ever felt is when I was actually doing something kind and nice. So I was on a crowded train and it was somebody who needed the seat more than I did, for example. So I got up and I gave them my seat. And then after that, it just felt really awkward because everybody was like staring at me and they couldn't help but look over to me. And even that felt awkward. So, and then maybe they were feeling awkward because they hadn't gone up and given their seat. So even doing something kind made other people awkward. So, you know what? Let them be awkward. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. As long as you're doing something that's not, as long as you're not doing something that's hurting anyone or upsetting anyone, you are good. Okay? If people are going to feel awkward because you're doing something that's just you and it's not even upsetting anyone or hurting anyone, then just doesn't matter. Let them deal with their awkwardness and you will just feel very, very empowered and happy doing what you wanted to do. So I'm going to go back to them all, see if there's anything in the chat. Homa said, we hide bits of ourselves because we are afraid people might laugh at us and think we are weird. Exactly. Paul said, I used to hide my eczema. Yes, absolutely. I can understand that. Yeah. My son, my Omar son, has a birthmark, a very big birthmark, which goes all the way down his arm. And actually, I'm so proud. I'm getting goosebumps while I'm saying this, that he's never felt that he needed to hide it. And Maybe because I always told him that he's very special because he's got that. And when he was little, it used to be an indicator to me whether he was hot or cold because it changes colors. People will be mean, they won't be our friends, Helen said. Kishra said, I have a lot of hidden parts of me. I have lots of hidden talents. Well, Kishra, we want to see those talents. See, this is the saddest thing. When you're hiding something, and it's actually something that could bring people happiness, you know? Isn't that just sad? Just let it free, because you do not know, you don't know what could change somebody else's life for the better just by you doing it, you know? So going back to them, we think that people won't understand. So help them understand. And that's a lot of what I do through my Planet Omar books as well. When I explain the things, so remember I said to you that I wasn't sure whether I should put in that Omar's family prays 5 times a day, or that Muslims pray 5 times a day. I wasn't sure if that was too much to put in the book. Will people find that boring? Will people not want to read that? But you know what? People wanted to read that, and people learned that Muslims pray 5 times a day. And it kind of like, so now all the people that have read a book that's explaining that, whether it's Planet Omar or something else, when someone needs to pray, it's not that unusual. So we've helped them to understand. So sure, if you think people won't understand, why don't you be the person that helps them to understand by, you know, don't be shy about it. Just explain a little bit. I find that if you do that, people are just really, really grateful because they have actually always wondered. They want to understand. Most people are just lovely people. They want to understand. And once they do, you'll see that there's a completely different mood. And, you know, it's once they grasp why you're doing something, it's more easy for them to understand it and, you know, help you even do it. Like they'll get up and help you find a room to pray, for example. People won't like you. That's another reason we hide things, that we think people won't like us. Well, what I say to that is, and again, I've been through a journey myself where now I really don't care what other people think, whether they like me or not. If I want to do something, which is like, you know, because I can be quite silly and goofy in public as well. And my kids are like a little bit shy and embarrassed. And I'm like, well, I'm not like, you know, this is just me. I'm just being me. And if somebody doesn't like it, then it doesn't matter. If somebody doesn't like that part, if somebody doesn't like us for something that we're doing which isn't hurting anybody, then maybe we don't even need them in our lives, right? Okay, so you don't, you know, the world is just like this, unfortunately. Everybody's not gonna love you all of the time. And it's very hard, but you can't always please everyone in the room because everybody has different, you know, some of us like Frozen, and some of us don't. I'm gonna keep going back to the Frozen example. My niece would be so proud of me. But yeah, the point is that you should just be comfortable doing it, even if there is somebody who won't like you. And I tell you, it's very unlikely. People will still like you. And they'll like you more because you respected yourself and you were brave enough to be yourself. So they will like you more. And you know what? If you didn't like Frozen, there's going to be another 1 or 2 kids in that room who didn't like Frozen as well, but they were too scared to say it. So then they'll be like, actually, yeah, I don't like Frozen either. So that's why they're going to love you more. And even the ones who do like it, they'll think, okay, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's an interesting thing about you. And I wonder why you don't like it. And then there'll be a conversation. So don't be afraid of that people won't like me, because A, they probably still will, and they'll probably like you more. And B, if they don't like you because of something that you said or done, or because of the way that you are, just because they don't want to be that way or they don't like it, then you don't need people like that anyway. So you don't need them liking you. So let them just, you know, not like you. Who cares? That's kind of how I see things and how I am myself in life. And also, as you can see in my writing. So now when I'm writing Planet Omar books, I will include things about my culture, about my religion within the story, because I feel like, yeah, it actually, yes, it's part of Omar, it's part of his family. And it's really nice for people who don't know that kind of thing to learn it through Omar. Jonathan, being unique, doing what you want. I'm the only boy at school with long hair. I love long hair on boys, Jonathan. So yes, being unique. Being yourself means being being unique and having the confidence to be unique. Wouldn't the world be so boring if everyone was just the same and everyone was trying to be the same as each other? You know, the dedication in Planet Omar 1 says, you know, the bit at the front, the dedication, it says, this book is dedicated to all the children who ever felt that being different is a negative thing. Because when you read this book, you realize that being different isn't a negative thing. It's a very, very positive thing. And, you know, if people weren't different, then we wouldn't have some of the most wonderful things that we have in this world. We wouldn't have science. We wouldn't have books. We wouldn't have all lots of special things. Yeah, so Jonathan goes on to say, unfortunately, that people were mean to him because he had long hair, and Jonathan stuck it out. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm so proud of you for doing that, and I'm so glad that you did that. And yes, boys can have long hair. I absolutely agree. And I love my nephew Beth with long hair as well. My nephew really can't say I'm a little bit sad, but but I love him however he is. Point was, I think long hair can look super awesome on men and boys. So now I'm going to go on to questions. If you have any questions for me, you can put them in the Q&A chat, and we've got the last, what time is it? We've got the last maybe 10 minutes or so where I can answer lots of questions for you.
Lots and lots of lovely comments.
Awesome.
We've got a question from Nabila. He says, thank you so much for the Science Sunday idea. We do it every Sunday. We love that we can relate so much to Omar. On a side note, Isa is exactly like our baby sister Amina, very messy.
Yes. I'll Q&A chat as well.
So one of these questions, which is a really good one actually, I'd like to know the answer. From studying cell biology to being a secondary school teacher to being a publisher to now being a best-selling author, what made you switch to doing that? I mean, it's such an incredible kind of career progression, and it's such an interesting thing that you've done. How did you do that? And what made you decide to do it? How did you make it happen?
I talked about not seeing people from all sorts of backgrounds in books when I was very young, and I realized that when I had my own kids, I realized that there still weren't all sorts of people in books, and I wanted to do something to change that. And I always had a love for writing in primary school. When I went to high school, I fell in love with science, and that's what I pursued, but I've always loved writing and that sort of storytelling, and I've always been in touch with my inner kid. So I thought, I'm going to just give up on this science career and start up a whole new publishing house, because when I started thinking this way, it wasn't very mainstream to talk about the dearth of diverse books or lack of diversity in books. That discussion began maybe a couple of years later, and thank God it did. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the Planet Omar books. But yeah, that's why I made that switch.
Brilliant. So we've got a couple of lovely questions here. How does it feel to have had a book that you made get published to the world?
Oh, it feels, I think I posted earlier on today on Instagram, and I said it feels magical to be able to wake up each day and do what I love. So to me, it's just like I'm doing what I love and being able to earn a living from that so that I can actually carry on doing it. And it's just the most awesome feeling. I really, really thank God for being in that position to be able to do that. It's a strange feeling that I write words and I make up stuff, and then a little while later people read that and enjoy it and love it and wait for the next one. So it's kind of a strange feeling. It's still kind of a little bit like pinch me.
Oh, sure. 9-year-old Musa said, how long does it take to write a book?
How long does it take to write a book? So the Planet Omar series, the books in this series, the length that they are, it takes me about 6 to 8 weeks. And that is not writing all day long. For about 2 months, I'll write for about an hour a day, and then maybe another hour in the day. So a maximum of 2 hours, and do that for a couple of months, and that's it.
Wow, amazing. And did you get any inspiration from books that you read when you were young? What kind of books did you read when you were young?
I read a lot of Roald Dahl and Dr. Seuss. I love Dr. Seuss because of the silly rhymes. When I was younger, I loved writing a lot of poetry and funny, silly rhymes. So that really, really, I loved those books. And Roald Dahl, obviously, a complete legend, even now. And then I read all the same books to my kids when they were younger, as well as others. So yeah, those are the two that really stick in my mind from what I loved when I was little.
So, Filza, I hope I've pronounced that right. Sorry if I haven't. Do you have any advice for budding authors? And I know that you've already talked to us a lot about, character development and talking about the things that make you special and individual and things that you're maybe scared of. But, any kind of advice for children who want to be an author?
I would say, and I say this every time I get asked this question, is to obviously you need to do lots of reading because you need to understand the shape a story takes, and you'll understand that if you do lots of reading. But other than that, I say let yourself get bored sometimes. So, our lives are quite hectic. We're always having to be at the next extracurricular activity, or like watch the next show, or participate in this or that. So we've always got lots and lots of information going into our minds, but we don't always allow ourselves enough time for everything to settle and then something to come out as well. And the time that it will come out is when you're just allowing yourself to be a little bit still and a little bit bored, because that's when your mind will start processing and playing, and the ideas will come out. So yeah, one of the best pieces of advice I give to kids is to let yourself be bored sometimes. Absolutely,
completely agree with that one. And when my children say to me that they're bored, I sometimes say, good. You need to be bored. That's great. That's how your imagination gets going.
When my son comes up to me and says, I'm bored, I say, that's great news. And he hates it. But I'm like, that's fantastic news.
Absolutely. So you've talked to us about the writers that you loved to read when you were younger. Who's your favourite author now?
Ooh. When you asked that, Oliver Jeffers came to mind. He writes picture books, but there's nothing that he's ever created that I haven't loved, let's just say. He's completely awesome. So yeah, and other than that, for older books, Katherine Johnson, Patrice Lawrence, we've got some brilliant authors creating diverse books like mine as well. So yeah.
Okay, what do we have next? Another live question here, which was, sorry, I've just lost it. There we go. Oh, yes, I love this one. So, Ayana, who is age 7, said, we've read all your books and we love them. Do you think they will be ever made into a film?
Oh, that's always an exciting one. You know what? I've been asked that question before in a school, and I said, let's hope it does get made into a film or something. And if it does, I'll buy you all ice cream. Because then hopefully I'll have enough money to do that. So, oh my God, I would love to see Omar on screen. And there might be some news about that. You'll just have to keep watching this space. Yeah, I would love to see Omar on screen, and it will just be very exciting to see that visually as well, especially his whole imagination. So yeah, if you want to see that, then I hope you get to.
Amazing. Now, we've talked about the fact that this is book 4, and of course you also did the World Book Day book. Where does Omar go next? Do we have more plans?
I'm just starting to write book 5. So Planet Omar book 5, I think you'll see it next year. But yeah, so there's definitely going to be another Planet Omar book. And other than that, I've got another very exciting story brewing with a girl character. And I still have to use notebooks, guys. So I just love a pen and a notebook. And for that new story idea, I've been putting down lots and lots of ideas, developing my characters, developing the layers that I talked about. So hopefully you will see, God willing, that completely new book and new story out as well, maybe in a year or so.
Oh, how exciting. Oh gosh, I'm going to keep my eyes completely peeled for that. I'm just going to do one more question because we're at the end, but this, I know, can you believe it? It's gone so quickly. But this is, I think, to me, this is one of such a well-deserved and huge achievement to have been nominated for something like the Carnegie Medal. I mean, what does that mean to you? And how did you feel when that happened?
It just means so much. I mean, that's like a great literary award. And I was like, but I just literally just write nonsense. But obviously people don't feel that. And it just feels so great to be recognized in that way, to be acknowledged and recognized. You know, that happened soon after winning the Little Rebels Award. And that award just threw Omar into the limelight for a while. And it all just felt very overwhelming and in a very, very good way.
Sure, I'm sure. Oh, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been wonderful and it's been so inspiring. Listen to you talk about, the importance of finding your own voice and, sitting with yourself and being comfortable with who you are and celebrating the things that make you different. And I just think that's the most incredibly important message for everybody. And I'm sure for those of you, I'm quite sure you've all read at least one Omar book. But in case you haven't, and in case you want to read the books, there was a link sent out to you with your event registration, and you can click on that link and you can buy all of the books. There's a dedicated page for Zanib's books. And if you do buy from us, by the way, you do get a discount, but also the proceeds go to helping this festival be delivered every year. Wow, we're already halfway through day 3, to the final day, and we've had an amazing morning.
It's been amazing, and I just wanted to say before it all ends that thank you so much. I can see that there's so many comments in the chat. I haven't obviously been able to look at all of them, but I wanted to say, if you're watching, this world is so diverse. Us as humans are so diverse, and I absolutely love it. I'm always staring at people. When I stop at the traffic lights, I'll be looking around at people because I love the diversity within us, and I love all of you, and I hope you all love each other.
Oh, I love you too. I love you watching.
But it is what it is.
I love you watching. I love looking at the people around me and thinking how amazing it is that everybody lives such different, individual, diverse lives, and that my experience is just one of millions. And it's wonderful. And I'm so happy that your books are capturing one element of another part of the world, and we're just, through reading books, we can almost live these different lives and experience these different lives. It's so important.
Absolutely.
But yeah, what an amazing morning. And we've got an amazing afternoon coming. After lunch, we have Gareth P. Jones, who is a performer as well as a writer. So that's going to be a lot of fun and quite noisy and quite funny and silly. And then right at the end, we have our grand finale with an incredible poet, Raymond Antrobus, and an incredible illustrator, Polly Dunbar, who are talking about their latest book, Can Bears Ski, which is a really important, beautiful story about a little bear who doesn't realise that he has hearing problems, and we go on his journey to finding that out, and for him getting hearing aids, which is wonderful. Thank you, Zanib. Thank you all for joining us. It's been incredible. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honour to have you all here, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you for being part of Booktastic.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.